5, 4, 3, 2, 1. KenCast.
Hey everyone, I'm Ken Cole, and welcome to KenCast. To everyone watching live and everyone watching on the replay, welcome. Today we have an amazing discussion for you. We have a very special guest. We're going to get to a lot of news, and we're going to be talking about this potential rematch. Could we see Terry Silver fight Johnny Lawrence again, and who would win? We want to hear all your comments in the chat. We want to hear what you think every step of the way. But first, before we launch into this discussion, let me introduce today's very special guest. You've seen him before on KenCast, and you've probably seen him all over the internet. It is my pleasure to introduce Strife the Warrior. Strife, how are you?
Hey, how's it going, Ken? Look what I brought.
Whoa! Oh, that's great. No, wait, hold on. Hold that up again. Let us see that. So that's a drum. That's like a Miyagi-Do drum from Karate Kid 2 and Cobra Kai. And so is there a story with that drum?
Yes. So actually, I have a few of these drums I hand painted. I like to say this one's the better one because this one kind of came a little bit better. But I'm actually going to Dallas Fan Expo next week and then meeting some of the cast of Cobra Kai. So I'm really excited about that. They announced them back in, I think, was it January or February? Somewhere around that time. So they announced Martin Kove, who plays Kreese, William Zabka, who plays Johnny, Peyton List, who plays Tori. And then a few weeks ago, they announced Jacob Bertrand as, who plays Hawk. So we got both, actually 3 All Valley champions there that I'm going to go meet. So I'm very excited about that. So going as Mr. Miyagi and also going as Chosen. And, you got to have some props every now and then with your costume. So,
yeah, absolutely. Daniel asked, where did you get them? I think that's the drum. Where did you?
Oh, yes. Yeah. I actually bought these off Amazon. And then, so these I actually hand painted. These were the logo was hand painted by me. I just kind of what I started with was just like a regular, like mechanical pencil. And I kind of like drew the logo as best as I could. And then really this is just all acrylic. The only thing I have to do is seal it with, I forgot what it's called, clear coat. So I usually do that so that way that, paint doesn't scuff, but as you can see, it's still, even with the paint, it's still functional and everything. So,
oh, that's great. Can you hold up one more time?
Yeah,
so we can see that artwork there. Nice job.
And then, thank you. So then it's both sides. And this one actually came a little bit loose. So I have to glue this one with some contact cement, but easy fix. So I'm kind of getting everything ready for the trip next weekend. So
So now you go to these conventions, you have this life where you're actually a cosplayer, right?
Indeed. I also like to joke, like many moons ago, I was mostly known for cosplay, which was kind of true. But yeah, that's how I kind of really started. My first real big step into content creation was cosplay. So I went to a lot of conventions in the 2010s. I stopped in 2019, kind of like I had some personal things going on at the time. And then I kind of slowly started working my way back last year. So actually, speaking of Miyagi, I was Miyagi last year, and some of you guys might remember that I met Martin Kove in my Miyagi cosplay. So that's yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say while you're talking, I think I have some pictures of you as Miyagi.
Yes.
I'm gonna bring this up here. Hang on.
Yeah, and that's actually where I sacrificed my my hairline. We actually took a thinning comb. I grew out my hair, and then we actually put it like that, and my hairline was messed up for so many months after that. So.
I have to say, this is so great.
Thank
my
you.
gosh.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Nice job. I love the bonsai tree too.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah.
It looks like the Miyagi tree.
Thank you. Yeah, I pretty much so interesting thing about this cosplay, when I was looking up all the things for Miyagi, like what clothes he would wear. So those clothes I'm wearing are actually military. So that's another key detail, like how great, Robert Mark Kamen was with writing Mr. Miyagi's character. Like when you see him in this getup in like a lot of the Karate Kid films, these are his old military clothes he's wearing. So a lot of like the shirt, the pants, the belt, that's all like military stuff that he was wearing from, possibly his World War II days. So, and then same thing, the bonsai tree got off of Amazon. It was $30. I actually still have it here. I'm going to take it with me next week too. So, yeah, that was, it was really fun to do this cosplay. I really was not expecting to be stopped so many times.
Right.
Because I didn't know how it was going to be received, but people loved it, man. It was great.
hang on. I've got this. I've got the one with you. And look at this, everyone. Everyone, check this out.
Oh yes.
Oh, this is
Yes.
great.
Yes. Oh man, this was so awesome. And like Martin Cole was blown away by this. He's like, man, you brought an actual bonsai with you. It was prop bonsai, but you know, like I think my initial idea was like, let's have a stare down like we did in, you know, Karate Kid 1, like with the dojo. But he's like, no, let's do something with this. And he was really like really cool, really sweet, really nice. And yeah, like I think I kind of reminded him of Pat a little bit, just because he was just like in awe, like of like how you know, how like the cosplay turned out. And really, really sweet guy, man. He's really cool. I'm looking forward to meeting him again next week too. So
Yeah, that's fantastic. That seems like it's going to be a lot of fun. And I have one more that I think
Sure.
just looks very funny, which I think it would be amazing to see you do this. Look at this.
Oh yeah, dude. If they have cars, I'll definitely do that. So I actually, you kind of noticed some of the pictures. I actually had towels in my back pockets like Miyagi did, and so like I asked this guy. He was posing near the cars. I guess it was his car. He was affiliated with whoever had that car, and so I was like, "Hey, dude, let's reenact this picture real quick." And it was perfect. Like just like the angle and everything. It was so great, man. So
That's so great. Okay, so now you're going to this. This is in Dallas, right?
right.
And tell everyone what this is, because some people might not know about it.
Sure.
And they might want to go.
Yeah, so it's called Dallas Fan Expo. It's a comic convention. This is my first time going to this specific convention. These used to be called something else, and I can't think of what it is. Maybe it was just Comic Con, like, you know how like there's New York Comic Con and stuff like that, but there was
Right.
like another name for Fan Expo that it used to be called. But yeah, it's 3 days next weekend, so very excited. We're going there. There's some other people too that you don't really see a lot making an appearance. Brendan Fraser's also going to be there. Some
Wow.
people from Lord of the Rings, Mandalorian. I'm trying to think. I almost, if I can somehow get it, few wrestling stars can be there. The Undertaker's going to be there. I'm very, very tempted to shell out for that photo op too, because it's like, how often do you meet the Undertaker?
Right.
Ric Flair is going to be there. All kinds of stuff. And yeah, so
Wizard
World. Thank you. Yes.
Yes. This is Peter Vonosak from Cobra Kai Companion. Thanks
Hey,
for
what's up,
joining us
Peter?
again, Peter.
Yes.
Yeah, Wizard World. I saw the Undertaker once in person at one of those conventions, and I thought he was intimidating on television. In person, my goodness, man.
Yeah, he's tall.
He is just, and he is fierce. Like, that is one intimidating human being.
Yeah.
I will say. So
wait, how tall are you, Ken? Because I know he's like a 7 foot.
No, let me put it this way. I'm like 5'8". Okay. And he was sitting down and he was intimidating me.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, because I remember he's close to 7 foot. I remember like in the 90s he was built like at 6'11" and a half or something like that. So yeah, it was crazy.
Man, well, hey, the Undertaker, wrestling, fighting, guys. Everyone watching today, I'm seeing all these great comments coming in. We are going to have a great discussion about fights and who might win in this rematch of Terry Silver and Johnny Lawrence. And we are going to be getting into that really soon. The first thing, though, is we want to do news.
KenCast News.
All right.
And that transition is amazing, bro.
Oh, thank you, Strap. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's fun. And now, here's another event. So if you're in the LA area, we've got the Enter the Dojo concert. Okay, so this is the concert with Leo and Zach. Leo Bierenberg, Zach Robinson, the composers of the Cobra Kai series. And they're doing this live concert with their band at the Troubadour on June 23rd. So if you're in the LA area, definitely get tickets. I'm going to be there. I know some other people are going to be there. Brian Fishback, who did last week's KenCast about the music, he's going to be there. It is going to be, and I hear rumblings that there could be some special guests. So everyone, definitely, if you're in the area, check that out if you're a Cobra Kai fan. Okay, the next thing is the second part of my interview with William Christopher Ford. Dennis in Karate Kid 3 is now up on YouTube. So this gets more into his personal background, how he got into martial arts, his love of movies. And it really, I think, gets inspirational. He has great advice on bullying. And if you want to study the martial arts, how to find a dojo, lots of cool projects he's working on. So everyone definitely check that out. The link is in the description. Okay, Strife. So
before we get to this, though, I got to say something real quick about the Cobra Kai concert. California people get all the fun, man. I just wish I could have been seeing this. Okay, so I do want to say something special about this. For those of you guys that don't know, Vince DiCola was the composer for Rocky IV soundtrack. And as you kind of hearing some of the music in season 4, especially the tournament, very Rocky IV-esque music. So, Leo and Zach were definitely paying tribute to that and whatnot. But, yeah, you guys should definitely check this out because I'm sure everybody in here that's seen Cobra Kai Karate Kid has at least seen Rocky IV, and just like, that radical soundtrack that movie had. And that also was the inspiration for the season 4 soundtrack. So definitely check that out if y'all can. So
yeah, absolutely. And Strife, that's a really great point. The LA area seems to get all these things, and I enjoy going to them. I cringe because I know there are so many fans around the world who would love to go, but here's what we'll do. I'll go, and you will know all about it. You'll know what happened, and if this is super successful, who knows? They may take this on the road and go around the country or maybe around the world. So everyone who's in the LA area, go to this, make it a success, and maybe our Cobra Kai fan friends around the world will get a chance to go to a tour. Definitely. So okay, Duke Nukem, guys. Strife also, he loves Cobra Kai, Karate Kid. He also knows gaming too, and this is another link up between Cobra Kai and gaming. John, Josh, and Hayden, these are the creators of the Cobra Kai series, are now developing at Counterbalance Entertainment, that's their company, a Duke Nukem movie. Now, Strife, do you have what is your experience with Duke Nukem? This is a game. This is like 90s. This makes me think of the 90s. Right. What's your thought?
Well, I definitely grew up in the 90s. I've played a little bit of Duke Nukem here and there. It's a classic game that's, it's had different, sequels and remakes over the years. If it's one team that could definitely, take this movie head on and make something great out of it, it would definitely be these three. Because, I mean, look at how good the writing is with, Cobra Kai. If they can just keep like that same team of writers to like really study the material, just like they did with Karate Kid, because I mean, look how much detail they put in the universe or the Miyagi-verse, so to speak.
Yes.
With Cobra Kai, with just 4 movies and reading between all those lines and stuff like that. If they can apply that same principle, that same way of filmmaking to Duke Nukem, easily. And we've been blessed, thankfully, with a lot of good, more video game adaptation movies that are, movies or shows that are actually good. Castlevania's coming out with a new season, and everybody loves Castlevania. Sonic the Hedgehog, and depending on how you feel about it, I still think 2021 Mortal Kombat was really good. And I like the 95 Mortal Kombat movie too. So I'm very excited, especially if they can put all the wisecracks that Duke Nukem has. This movie could definitely work. I could see it working.
Do you think that they're gonna go ahead and develop a new Duke Nukem game? If there's going to be a movie in the works, do you think they're going to develop a new game, or would it take too long to kind of like release them at the same time?
It'd be possible. I think the only thing is though, it just depends, because they could be already talking to like, the makers of Duke Nukem of like, hey, let's make a, movie and whatnot. But if they could do that, push the movie and the game at the same time, classic marketing tactic in the 90s and 2000s where, movie video games were run rapid, it would be a definitely very smart move. And that one comment says Duke Nukem nowadays is going to be controversial.
Yes.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, though, look at how Johnny Lawrence too, like with his dialogue and stuff like that. Good intentions, bad executions, but that's also why people love him. And because his character is real and stuff like that. So, and I think they could still make it work, because I mean, look how great the writing is with Cobra Kai. This is easy. No, they're knocking it out of the park for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because this is a character that's definitely from another era. He's definitely not PC, this is very edgy. And I think, like you say, fun. Like, like Johnny's edgy, and I think these guys are so talented. They would know just how to walk that line where you could have all the fun and enjoyment out of Duke Nukem
Right.
and not really offend people, because
Yeah.
they get it's part of the joke.
Right.
Let's see. Okay, so Duke Nukem, we'll watch that. I can't wait to hear about the news with Duke Nukem. Now, this is another series, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle series. Some of us wouldn't necessarily think it at first, but there is huge crossover appeal between like the worlds of Cobra Kai and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. There are tons of fans of both universes. And then we have this brand new game, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. And Strife, could you tell us a bit about this game and why it's significant?
Dude, I've been waiting. So I remember they either announced this game last year or the year before. I've been waiting for this game a long time coming out. It's coming out this coming Wednesday. I was gonna say next Wednesday because I was still thinking we're last week. But yeah, no, sorry, Thursday. So great thing about this game already. Online co-op. Online, I mean, that's it. Like that, you just sell me on that, and that's it. And that's something the Cobra Kai game was severely lacking. And hopefully maybe they'll update the game someday and do that. Online co-op up to 6 players. 6 players, that's awesome because that's like I can't remember if it was Konami who made it or what, but if you remember the original X-Men arcade game, that was one of the few beat 'em ups that was 6 players and it worked. So you have this is going to be in the style of the first 2 Ninja Turtle games, which I don't know if you ever played them.
Oh yeah,
but I was a big fan of Turtles in Time. I owned the Super Nintendo copy for many years.
Right.
I was still play that game any day. I could run that game in 30 minutes. It's a fun game.
Yes.
So yeah, what's really cool about this is not only that you play obviously the Turtles, but as you can see here, they've added Casey Jones. You can also play as April and Splinter.
That's wild.
What I really love about actually, we might be able to play this video. This is another one that I should have sent to you actually, but I'm going to send it to you real quick. So what's really cool about April's moveset is they gave her a lot of moves from Street Fighter Alpha. So a lot of any fighting game fans out here would definitely recognize their the moveset and whatnot. She has moveset from Sakura, Guy.
Wow.
I'm trying to think who else they had too. Okay, here. I'm about to send it to you right now, Ken.
Sure.
It's a very short video. It shows the comparisons of the fighters from Street Fighter and then April's moveset in this game.
Okay, let's see if I can pull this up here.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, I am about to hopefully pull up just this little preview of this game. But yeah, so as we prep this should be kind of like a demonstration of what, Strife?
Yeah, the game. So it's basically showing April's moveset in this game and how the comparisons, like the different fighting games that they took from like the different characters fighting games and stuff like that. So
I gotcha. Okay,
yeah.
So this is it. Let me. Sorry, guys. I'm gonna mute the sound, but
yeah. So right here, this is one of Chun-Li's kicks from Street Fighter Alpha, as you see here, and then one of Akuma's kicks. They gave her one of Guy's sliding kicks from Street Fighter movies or Street Fighter games, and then one of Karin's combos. And then you have like this double hip thing, which is also in Street Fighter. So, yeah, it's just great. Like,
wow,
I'm really excited, and that's what I also loved about the Cobra Kai video game too, is that they gave the characters like so many references to, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, Streets of Rage with all the gameplay and stuff like that. So, and that's what I really love about that game, as well as they took a lot of time to it, stuck back to the roots, and that's why I think a lot of people are excited for Shredder's Revenge, because it's just going to be just like the arcade games but dialed up to 12.
That's cool. That's great. We got Stuart Young. Hey, Stuart. I remember playing Turtles Tournament Fighters to death on the.
Yeah, I love that game too. That's a really underrated game. Konami, pretty much any Ninja Turtles game they put out, always knocked it out of the park, whether that was the fighting game or the beat 'em ups, and just the music too. And they have some of the same music style that they're also going to use for Shredder's Revenge. So I'm really, really excited for this. So
that's great. All right, all fighting fans, definitely check that out. Put it on your radar. Shredder's Revenge coming out June 16th. Okay, now Strife, a fighting game kind of, I think, leads us into a really good segue for our discussion.
KenCast discussion.
All right, here we go. Everyone, we see your comments. Thank you for your comments. I'm interested to hear what everyone has to say during our discussion going forward. We are going to be talking about a potential rematch between Johnny Lawrence and Terry Silver. And before we get going, we can't show the clips for copyright reasons in the stream, but in the description, I put links to all the different fight scenes that we might talk about, kind of like in assessing who's got better skill than who. This is the first time I've done this discussion live, I think, like where we're going to be analyzing a potential future fight. So I'm honored to be here with Strife the Warrior because Strife has his own YouTube channel where he talks about, or he analyzes character, but he also goes through these hypothetical matchups and who might win, which is really great and interesting. I've done a few of those myself. They're fun. Strife really is kind of an expert in delving into who could win. So he's going to be great to have here just to discuss who could win, Terry Silver versus Johnny Lawrence. Now, Strife, before we get going, I wanted to start this off because I think you brought up a good point before, is that we don't even know for sure if this might happen. We don't know for sure if we could even see a rematch between Johnny Lawrence and Terry Silver. Can you give us your thoughts on that and the likelihood of that?
Yes. First, I want to say, man, you've hyped me up so much. Now I got to really deliver. Yeah. So, obviously, the main, as we kind of saw in the season 5 trailer, the main rivalry is going to be, finally Chosen and Terry Silver meeting, face to face. So this matchup may not even happen, but at the same time, it would be kind of weird for it to not happen, just because the only inkling that I could see, which if you guys have seen my breakdown of the season 5 trailer, Johnny actually ends up visiting one of Terry's new dojos, and there's somebody walking in front of Johnny that looks like Chosen. So, it would be, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw another fight similar to season 3, where it was Johnny and Daniel versus Silver, or, Johnny and Daniel versus Kreese, and maybe it's Terry versus Chosen, Johnny and Daniel. And yes, I will put it out there that I think it would take 3 people to take down Terry, like in kind of like, but they made it work like in season 3 was of like, because Johnny and Daniel ambiguously were both able to take Kreese one-on-one. So
right. And this is an interesting concept too, because you use the word ambiguously. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about that. So, we talk about all these fights and these matchups, but you're basically saying that they're not clear cut, or the results aren't necessarily clear cut, or how we got to the end of it isn't clear cut, right?
Right. Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's what's also so great about so many fights throughout the series, not even just talking about Terry Silver. So for example, Hawk and Robbie in season 2 fought at the mall, but of course, because of the involvement of everybody else, even though Hawk lost that fight, it's just because of the involvement of other people. And you could argue that, but at the same time, and like even just breaking it down, and that's kind of why season 4 was so great, because they finally meet again, where, first they had a draw in season 1. Then technically Robbie beat Hawk at the mall, by Miyagi-Do beating Cobra Kai. So then season 4, it finally came down to, okay, let's finally have this match one-on-one, who would win. And even then it was also ambiguous because Robbie lost focus because he saw himself in Kenny. And then even though, and it was just such great storytelling in that fight, because before they even went to sudden death, they were tied 1-1. And then, nobody was able to land the other hit on the other. And then I remember just watching that scene for the first time and just like being so tense because just the fight was so close, and just like yelling like, when Hawk finally like landed that final hit. So that's what's so great about these fights. And then same thing with the rivalry we're going to see in season 5 with Robbie and Miguel. Right. You have Miguel beating Robbie by, and like I know people have argued with me this through the comments before, but just because it was legal to attack what was the thing? Kind of like, how he attacked the shoulder. Just because it was legal doesn't mean it was ethical, Right. So, Miguel beat Robbie in season 1. And you could argue that Miguel technically beat Robbie in season 2 as well, but because he let his guard down, he got injured and paralyzed. So Robbie technically won that match.
Right.
And then season 4, again, it was an ambiguous fight because of the involvement of Sam and Tori, and then Robbie kind of showed up, and Miguel, the only reason the fight stopped was because Miguel, Sam, and Tori all went into the pool. So that's why I'm also excited about season 5, because we're going to finally have a clear one-on-one fight with Miguel and Robbie, and they're going to try to settle that score again. So the way they've also done all these kind of fights, just like set up with like little details here and there, like, okay, well, they won because of this, or they kind of lost because of this.
Right.
And then, even with, like we talked about season 3 with Kreese and Johnny clearly was taking it, to Kreese, and he would have won that fight. And then you can argue that, yes, Daniel beat Kreese, but Kreese technically was already weakened from Johnny. So that's why, yeah.
What Zeron, let me bring this up. To be fair, Daniel was facing an already classic Kreese.
Yeah. So definitely.
That's exactly what you're talking about.
Right. Yeah. So, that's also why they kind of have like so many, like these like fights, kind of like technicalities here and there. Like even with Sam and Tori in their very first fight at the school, Sam was knocked down a few times and whatnot, and then like Miguel came in and interfered from like Tori doing any more damage. So that's why these fights are just so great, because of the ambiguity of like from both sides of because like, and even with Daniel and Johnny fighting, that's why they've tied like so many times too, because they're just equal strength. So
exactly. We've got Gary Hernandez. How you doing, Gary? He says, I agree. It would take 3 to beat Silver.
Yep. I would
and
think
so
too.
But regardless of what we think, we're gonna get into it here. We're gonna dive in. We're gonna kind of look at what we know about these people. We're gonna do our best to sort our way through ambiguous fights and try to see, like, reasonably who would win in a rematch between Terry Silver and Johnny Lawrence. So Strife, I think maybe a good place to start would be talking about the first fight, the one where Terry Silver blindsides Johnny Lawrence as he comes into the old Cobra Kai dojo, and then they have a fight. So we know that Terry Silver pretty handily beats him by the end of the fight. But looking back on that fight, and again, there's a link to it in the description, what things stick out to you, Strife, about that fight? What things do you take note of?
Well, obviously, there was like the cheap shot, as everybody would like to say, which is true. It did disorient to him. But you have to also give credit to Johnny that even with that cheap shot, he still caught Silver off guard and like landed a pretty good amount of hits in before Silver like backed him off with the throat jab. And the thing was that if Johnny would have kept up more defensively, he probably would have at least, maybe not. I don't know if we could say beat or not, because all of this is just speculation. But oh, Marcia, thank you, appreciate that. I just saw the comment. Yes, it was just kind of crazy. But you also, like, the one thing too, you think about it, just how quick that fight was, and that's really to Terry's credit of like how good obviously he is a fighter, and now we kind of know he might be better than Kreese. So
right, exactly. And Daniel says Terry starts with an unfair hit. Yeah, and if we go back to that moment, my question is, why did Terry do that? Because obviously he knows he's good. Why did he feel the need to blindside Johnny like that? Because it almost seemed kind of like a petty thing to do. Or was he concerned that somehow Johnny might be better, that he wanted to give himself the advantage and wanted to blindside him? Did he just do it because he's spiteful and he wanted to cause as much pain as possible? I don't know. What do you think about Terry Silver's choice to start that fight with just blindsiding Johnny?
One layer I would say is like, and to be honest, if it's and this is something Johnny said himself in season 1, like, you think the enemy's going to play fair, you never know if somebody's going to hit you from behind with a baseball bat. So like, really, it's almost like anything goes in the streets, to be honest. But at the other layer on top of that is that if you remember at the end of episode 7, Kreese kind of like twisted this gear inside of Terry's head and almost kind of had him under a spell. And right exactly after doing that cheap shot is like, I had to prove my loyalty to you. This is what you want. Let's beat him now. Like, let's take him out of the tournament and throw his student off balance. So he was trying to do that almost in a way to compete for Kreese's affection, because he knew that even like, because, one of the questions going into this, like, obviously Johnny probably doesn't know who Terry Silver is. Does Terry know who Johnny is? And in the, episode 1 of season 4, he says, wait a minute, your student. So he obviously, Kreese has talked about Johnny in high regard to Terry. So it was almost like competing for his affection. You know,
Right.
like I had to prove my loyalty. So
It's an interesting point because Jorge says, what if Terry lured Daniel into the old dojo instead of Johnny? What would Kreese have thought of that? And kind of like to your point, I don't think he would have minded because, you know, Kreese is definitely has affection for or devotion to Johnny, you know, deep down. And I don't think he has that to Daniel at all. So I think he'd be fine. Just my opinion. I think Kreese would be fine with Terry just doing whatever to Daniel. I don't know.
Right.
What do you think, Stripe?
Yeah, that would have probably been it might have been really bad for Daniel, to be honest, because at least at that point, because we kind of like saw in episode 4 of season 4, Terry just straight up says like, you have that grudge because of Miyagi, because the whole and it's kind of funny and simplistic when you think about it, but the whole reason that Kreese has beef with Miyagi is because he's taking Johnny's word because of Johnny twisting the story. So that's like outside of that, they probably would have gotten along amicably. But of course, then you look at the actions of Karate Kid 3 and Daniel involved in that. So I think, though, at the same time that I don't know if Kreese would have stopped the fight. I don't think he would have gotten involved, though. It might have just been Terry versus Daniel because, you know, even at the dojo, he was like, okay, you know what, let's settle this the old-fashioned way at the you know, at the tournament. And even Kreese says that after he's like, let him, you know, get off of him. We agree to settle this on the mat. So, and which is very contradictory to what he said in season 2. He's like, you know, I forgot what the quote is. I'm kind of paraphrasing here. It's like, oh, the other fight never fights with any honor.
Right.
So to see Kreese more honorable in that thing is definitely kind of a character development. So,
right. And I sympathize here. What if Terry wanted to test Kreese to see whether it's finally time to get rid of Kreese? He might have been plotting this after episode 7. Now, the great thing about this show is you can take it so many ways. When I was watching the season and my own kind of ideas about Terry Silver, this is what I think was happening at the time, or at least this was my impression, that Terry, that whole thing might have been messing with Kreese's mind because he knew that Johnny was Kreese's weakness, and he was doing this to basically test Kreese to find out, what is this about? What am I here for? I don't like the fact that Kreese put me down. He thinks he's in charge of me, but now I'm toying back with Kreese and I'm beating up the thing that he cares about the most, and I'm going to force him to make a decision. What do you think about that idea?
It's very possible. I think there's also might have been before episode 7 too, because when they're talking at dinner, because Kreese already has conflicting, like they already have conflicting philosophies. Like, wait a minute, you know, we don't, you know, we don't strike back. You know, we don't like people just strike us and stuff like that. So, I think it could be that, and there definitely was some plot to it because there was something else I just thought of in episode 7. I think it's also because like Terry also was like, this guy's just gonna keep bringing up that he saved my life and all, you know, all that. There's also that layer to it too, and that's what's so great about, you know, Terry. It's just they giving him all these layers. Yeah, I think part of that was really trying to test of like, okay, well, let's see if you know, what you think of, you know, Johnny Lawrence after this. And I definitely, if not, definitely right after episode 8, where he's like, you know, when Kreese said, like, I thought I told you not to question me. So
Right, exactly. I know, and that's another thing. It's like the ambiguous fights, and we also have sort of like ambiguities in the characters. And it's like, as you said, with Terry Silver, it's just so much fun to read into like all these layers of the character and everything. So thank you for the comment, Stacia. I really appreciate it. So now, okay, so he blindsides Johnny, and then so Johnny comes back and surprises Silver in this fight. Okay, so and he actually gets good hits in, as you were talking about. And then at least when I watched it, it did seem like Silver wasn't phased much. Like he took those hits and he just like came right back.
I will one thing I would say, one thing that I just now thought of to interject was also look where he pinned Silver against the wall. Silver was off balance. If that wall wasn't there, he would have fell back and been on the ground.
That's a good point too. Yes. Absolutely. So Johnny was able to surprise Silver either because Silver was distracted or he underestimated Johnny. He thought that just that one hit should take care of Johnny and that he wouldn't get back up. But he was able to surprise Terry Silver. And then was able to get good shots in. Now, the thing, when I see the look in Terry's eyes after he got hit by Johnny, he was surprised and then obviously pissed off. And it seemed like Terry was able to take those hits and he seemed like that. There was a toughness in the way he came back at Johnny. Like, your hits don't mean anything. It's over, you know, and which is interesting. It made me think of Terry during the war days. And, you know, we seen him young, rich, you know, privileged. Obviously, his father has a company. We saw him kind of not be so strong in season 3 in those flashbacks, but there's a toughness to Terry here. And we haven't quite seen where exactly he's gotten his toughness yet. But does that communicate something to you about Terry Silver and like the pain he's willing to dish out, but also the pain he's willing to receive?
Yes, mainly because I think because of them being tortured when they were in the, you know, at the end of season 3, like the flashbacks and stuff like that. I mean, that will definitely, that'll change anybody. I mean, that's, you know, as I mentioned in my Sam video, that's definitely a cause of PTSD. So that'll definitely, you know, change anything. And that's also could be why Kreese has always had this war mentality, because of how the army had changed him. So, you know, really it's just kind of like fight or flight mode. And I think kind of like what Kreese was trying to allude to Terry is like, you've grown complacent. You missed this. Like, you know, and I think that was also something like just being in the heat of that moment and of like finally like just like that primal urge to like settle things one-on-one. That's why Terry like was enjoying this, because it's like, you know, I haven't felt like this alive in years. That's probably what we could also take from that scene, is that he was just and like as you said, you know, the army definitely probably hardened him to where, especially if he had somebody under Kreese that he was basically, obviously he studied under Master Kim Sung-young, but Kreese was, you know, kind of his superior in a way.
Right.
So, you know, especially having Kreese too, it was just like being very tough after fighting Captain Turner. Kreese would have probably also had a hand in that, into molding him into, as you know, kind of like to make a comparison from X-Men First Class. Kreese is Dr. Frankenstein and Terry Silver is Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah. Yep. I love that. Marcia says, I agree, Sasha. Silver loved every second of the fight. Johnny fighting back only made it more fun for Terry Silver. So we're at this point where Terry Silver decides to fight back. And we're describing the fight. There's a link to it if you want to kind of see it. But so Terry comes back at Johnny. And then I think there's a point at which Johnny is able to either defend or he does something, I don't know, with a kick or something. And Terry's able to kind of roll out of it. So he spins and rolls out of it. So it's like Johnny goes on offensive for a little bit. And then Terry was able to roll out of it, but then he gets back up and he's like, woo, you know, he's fired up. He's excited. He likes it. And I think it's at that point he says, wow, it seems like, you know, LaRusso taught him some defense. You know, let's see how much you learned, you know? And for this section of the fight, what's your sense of this? Like, are they evenly matched, or is Terry just having fun? Is he just having a little fun? You know, as Marcia says, what do you think?
Yeah, see, I have some notes here that I want to bring up, because like I kind of, but I don't know if this would kind of go, because it's also kind of a long-winded explanation. But to kind of answer your question first, at that point, Terry Silver's definitely stronger than Johnny, because he didn't complete Miyagi-Do's training.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Because here's the thing. He was able to defend and block all of these. And by no means, Silver is a slow striker. He's quick, even for his age.
Right.
And one thing is that, like, even though Johnny, obviously, Eagle Fang Karate is a hybrid of Cobra Kai, Daniel was able to do that whole training and apply it immediately after at the hockey game, fighting against multiple opponents. Johnny was doing really good, and you know, he gives respect to Mr. Miyagi, because Mr. Miyagi saved his life, but he quit after that bouncing act.
Right.
but as we can see, Johnny's a fast learner. But if he would have stuck with Miyagi-Do, he would have either conned the fight to a draw, or maybe ambiguously beat Silver.
I see. I love that thought. I love that thought. I want to say hi, Cobra Kai Karate. How's it going? Good to see you. Hey, what's up, guys? Seb says when Terry said, "Come on, pretty boy, let's go."
Oh yeah,
it got me so excited.
That was just so good. So
well, then that brings up. But here's the thing, Strife. I think I like your point. Do you think that Daniel, with his current level of knowledge and skill with Miyagi-Do, could beat Terry Silver?
No, because he doesn't have the offense that Chosen has, and that's why Chosen was able to school him. He's like, you don't know everything. Daniel doesn't know, and I guarantee that Chosen still knows things that Daniel doesn't know.
Right.
So, and that's the only reason why I kind of give a slight more like maybe Johnny could have beaten him, but even then it's kind of uncertain because Johnny already knew offense. He just needed to learn defense. Daniel already knows defense. He just needed to learn offense.
Right. So basically what you're saying is that Daniel thinks that he knows everything about Miyagi-Do. Yeah. Miyagi taught me everything he knew. And then of course we saw Chosen like, are you sure? And so basically though, it sounds like Johnny, if he completed learning Miyagi-Do, he might have had a shot against Silver, but he could have never completed it under Daniel. He might have had to learn under Chosen.
Right. And so, okay, so this is kind of goes to my point. And I'm going to tell you, there is a reason why Johnny lost. That was the entire lesson of the season, which Daniel comes to the realization at the end of season 4, you have to form your own way. Robbie just happened to be beating all of them to the punch on that because he was like, and he started with, at the end of episode 1, and he knew Miyagi-Do and Cobra Kai. So he knew how to kind of countering Miyagi-Do style because you can't conform your mind to just learning things. Bruce Lee said it best. You have to be like water. You can't just rely on techniques and all this stuff. You have to be free flowing and whatnot. The entire lesson of season 4 was if they're going to work together, you have to learn to complement each other's style. And that's also why Hawk won. He knew he trained under everybody. He trained under Kreese for an extended amount of time. He trained under Johnny for an extended amount of time. And he trained under Daniel. He was only missing defense. And that's why he won. So that's why Johnny lost. That was also but here's the other thing. Look at the show format previously. Johnny didn't beat Kreese at first either in season 2. He lost against Kreese. But given in season 3, look how he almost mopped the floor with Kreese and barely took any damage and stuff like that. And the other thing you have to also admire about that is we know in season 2, it takes place at the start of the summer of 2018. And then that fight happens season 3, December of 2018. Johnny was in jail for a good amount of that time, and he really even wasn't training during that season. He was trying to help Miguel recover. So that also speaks levels of Johnny's potential of why he was able to beat Kreese without even training much. And that also brings another point from the original Karate Kid movie. Daniel beat a 2-time All-Valiant champion with a month and a half of practice of karate against somebody's 5 years. So that's also why in the future it's possible for Johnny to beat Silver because obviously, even with the amount of time of training, stuff like that, that doesn't necessarily mean anything if you know how to, be free flowing, as we saw with Hawk. Learn to open your mind like Daniel did, and as somebody else had tossed me about this too, is that the reason why Daniel could have won in 1984 is because he intensely trained, compared to Johnny's, 5 years. Not saying that Johnny was complacent, but even another example, Miguel beat Xander Stone with less than a year of karate experience. And Xander Stone was a previous All-Valley champion. So.
Okay. So it sounds like there are a couple things you're saying. The first thing is that you can always have, if you want to call it an upset, or you can always have someone who you think shouldn't win, they can actually go ahead and win depending on a number of factors. It could be that Daniel had the exact Miyagi was so good, and he was also so good at teaching that he was able to teach Daniel in a way that was just so much better than the way Kreese taught. So he was able to teach Daniel exactly what he needed to know for that situation to deal with those people. And Johnny had all that knowledge in him. He just needed to, given a certain number of circumstances, he was able to go in and beat Kreese. But here, some people will say this: Kreese is old. And I guess you could say that about Terry Silver. Terry Silver's, old, even though Thomasine Griffith's like pretty much the same age as William Zabka. Silver's supposed to be a bit older. Should that factor into our calculations at all too?
Well, Mr. Miyagi was old, but look how he mopped the floor with everybody. Took on like 4 or 5 kids at one time, beat Silver in his prime. And the other thing too, which is kind of unfortunate about some of the old Karate Kid movies, is because obviously martial arts choreography wasn't, and at least in this, compared to Cobra Kai, was a lot different. Kreese looked like a joke to Miyagi, like in terms of his thing. But even now, and that's what I like about Cobra Kai now, is that they've also fleshed out of like, okay, this is how powerful Kreese really was.
Right.
And same thing with Silver. So yeah, I mean, you can say the old too, but like age definitely comes to a certain factor, but it's not a like an every time thing, at least especially in this, the Miyagi-verse. And the other thing too about like Daniel, look how many Daniel's like L's that he took in all of those movies before finally beating somebody. It's not, yeah, some of those fighters were definitely superior. Obviously Chosen at this point is still superior to Daniel, but he, like, as you said, it just depends on the factors, and you kind of go into everything. So
okay, so I'd like to, let me bring this up. Here's a comment from Lupo Music. I think it's complicated to say who would win against Terry, especially for Johnny and Daniel, because if someone beats him and the other doesn't, then that's an indirect way to say who's best between the two.
Which is why they handled the season 3 Kreese fight the way they did. They left it ambiguous because they both were able to beat Kreese in a one-on-one capacity, depending on the factors. Johnny, beat Kreese but was distracted by Robbie. Daniel beat Kreese, but Johnny had already weakened Kreese at that point. So
right. And let's finish up quick with like describing that first fight between Johnny and Silver. So they fight. Silver gets excited and wants to see what Johnny knows, and he seems to be having fun with a smile on his face. He comes up with a series of punches, and Johnny seems to use a Miyagi-Do blocking system, against it, which was a really cool moment. But then Terry just spins around and kicks him, and that pretty much kicks him into like some wood, and that pretty much ends the fight.
Right.
So that's the fight. One thing that I'd like to get back to for a second is the quality of teaching and how that might influence how good everyone is. Johnny, Terry, John Kreese, Daniel, Chosen. So how big a factor do you think the quality of teacher is? Because I have a feeling that we're going to get new revelations in season 5 about Terry's background and associations and who taught Terry and his training versus who taught Johnny. Because it seems like all these kids, like the younger generation, is kind of at a disadvantage, because it's possible that John Kreese, of all of those, Miyagi, Terry, Chosen, John Kreese may not have been the best teacher. He could have been the worst teacher out of all of them. We don't know. And that's the best martial artist maybe that taught the kids. You've got Johnny and Daniel, who are pretty even. Daniel's hampered because he doesn't know all of Miyagi-Do. He's still learning from Chosen. And Johnny, he learned primarily from Kreese. I don't know if he learned from anyone else. I think he maybe dropped the hint. He's saying like, you didn't teach me everything in that season 2 fight. But how important do you think it is, the quality of your instructor and how you will do in a fight?
Extremely important. I mean, huge example. Ip Man taught Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee, one of the greatest martial arts to ever live. And Ip Man, I mean, they've made so many movies on Ip Man that also kind of speaks quality of volume. So like you have, and Miyagi said it best, no such thing as a bad student, only a bad teacher. And you have to be able to, I'm trying not to use so many Karate Kid puns, but you have to have that balance of, the right principles, the right thing. And that was a huge thing in season 2. Johnny realized that like you can't, the one thing he wanted to do was to avoid having his own students go down the same path he did. So that's why he says sometimes you have to show mercy.
Right.
It's just like it. Then the question on that is just like, when is the right time? And that's kind of what was unfortunate for Miguel, because he was like, I wanted to show mercy to Robbie and I still got injured. It just all kind of depends. So you definitely have to have a good teacher. That's why, like, despite his flaws, and really, I mean, every Cobra Kai character has flaws. That's why Miyagi was such a great teacher for Daniel, because he taught him like, what he needed to know in those moments. With really all three of his big fights with Johnny, Chosen, and Mike Barnes.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have a really good teacher, but that's also, and those good teachers are what produce good students. Like Miguel, like even with Johnny's flaws, Miguel was one of the best fighters in the Miyagi verse.
Mm-hmm.
Same with Hawk, same with Robbie, same with Tori and Sam. Those are why those five are always in the top five of the fighters, because their teachers were still effective to a certain degree. So.
Right. Now, Dylan Gaming asks a great question. How is Terry Silver so good? So by kind of going off with what you're saying and the importance of a good teacher, I think we're going to have revelations, could be wrong, but I have a sneaking suspicion I might not be wrong, that Terry trained under Master Kim Sung-young.
Right.
And he said that in Karate Kid 3. There's debate about whether he was lying or not, but it sounds like I'm kind of going to go with that he did,
Mm-hmm.
And Hayden Schlossberg, who recently did, he said this in a tweet, and he recently had an interview with Cobra Kai Kid where he said that Master Kim is like, in this universe, Miyagi level. Like, they are the only two who are at that level. Mm-hmm. So basically we're looking at Master Kim Sung-young is like the big bad, the father figure of the entire Cobra Kai style, that he is like, I guess what you'd say, like maybe a Bruce Lee level beyond,
Mm-hmm.
So if that's the case, that could explain why Terry Silver might be so good.
Right. I wouldn't put, and like you said, I wouldn't put it past it, because the thing is, Captain Turner obviously directly studied under Master Kim Sung-young. He says so in the season 3 flashbacks.
Right.
So I wouldn't be surprised at some point that Terry maybe visited, I can't remember if it was North or South Korea.
South Korea.
Yeah. And, studied under him directly to learn, to learn more. It just kind of just depends on when exactly he did it, because obviously he wasn't around to help Kreese run the dojo. Maybe when he was, busy with Dynatalks, that he was able to kind of visit on certain occasions to go and train over there.
Right.
I mean, that explains why he has like his own karate ring in his home. So that I wouldn't really put it past that either. Or maybe he flew, Master Kim out to him to train him. So
right. Yeah, I think you're right. It's like Terry would have all the resources. And I have this idea, and I don't know if it's true or not, that, Terry was always he maybe looked up to John Kreese, but at the same time, maybe was a bit jealous if it's true that John Kreese was the 2-time karate champion, Army karate champion, and Terry wasn't. Maybe that kind of got to him. And
right.
Even after the war, continued to, he'd have the money to either fly out to South Korea or have him come out, Master Kim come out and teach him, where that's something he consistently did, because we never saw Kreese practice in the original Karate Kid movies. Never did. But that's the first thing we see of Terry Silver at home. He has sparring partners. Like, that's a big part of his life. So obviously he's kept that up. Okay. So we've kind of covered, the teachers, the fight itself. What else do we need to know to make a prediction about a rematch between Johnny Lawrence and Terry Silver?
Kind of like what I said earlier, if he was able, like, the whole, again, the whole lesson of season 4 was to have to blend those own styles and whatnot.
Right.
Like, if he was able to do that, I think he would have more of a chance, and whatnot. And again, it could go just on the show format to where, sure, Daniel or Johnny or whoever loses the first time, it doesn't mean they can beat, doesn't mean they can't beat him in the future.
Right.
It's, and that's what even Dimitri and Hawk season 2, everybody, I still get comments about that. I'm like, oh, Dimitri got lucky and all this and whatnot. But as you can kind of see, it was literally just a reenactment of Daniel, showing Miyagi his reflexes. So yeah, you would have that. I'm actually looking at some more of my notes right here.
Sure.
Um,
How's it going? Talking straight with Nate.
How's it going? Yeah. So I mean, there's that. Having a good teacher. If I would suspect that Chosen would be a good teacher now, especially
Yes.
because even if he was still kind of like somewhat morally evil in like Karate Kid 2, he still had experience from back then, assuming he was around Daniel's age, maybe a little bit older.
Right.
And then, obviously when he, had a change of heart through it over the years, he's definitely had, way more experience teaching, and even tells Daniel, hey, I'm still teaching. So you would have that. Because the thing is too, is like, even with Johnny, like Johnny kind of showed Silver that, like, hey, I can cheap shot too. And like really anybody could do a cheap shot. It just comes down to like the quality of skill that you have. So,
right.
But I would definitely love to see, that fight happen again, no matter who wins or loses. I think a lot of people would love to see a rematch with that. So,
right. Exactly. Let's see. Robana. Hi, Robana. Terry's dad didn't want him to continue karate, so his dad must have died, or knowing Terry had someone end his life.
Oh, no.
Hey, it's interesting. I kind of had fun with that idea once too. You never know with Terry. And
that's true.
That's another point I want to bring up in just a second. We're going to get back to that. Yosef says, I think Terry's going to win. Only Chosen can go one-on-one against Terry Silver.
Mm-hmm.
And you could look at it as like, depending on how good Sato was, I made kind of a funny video on
I've seen that
of Terry Silver, of course, that's saying Sato wasn't that great. But there's a legitimate point of view that Sato is very good, and that Miyagi's father was a very good teacher. So you could say that Chosen learning from Sato maybe was similar from Silver learning from Kim Sung-young. Except if we go by Hayden Schlossberg, who's the canon guy, like he's the writer, co-creator of Cobra Kai. He's saying that Kim and Miyagi are on their own level. So he's saying that even Sato wouldn't have been as good as Miyagi and Master Kim.
I will interject with that and retort with that Robert Mark Kamen, the creator of these characters, said that Sato and Miyagi were on the same level. The problem was that Sato only relied on offense, and he used it for his own personal gain. That's why he became kind of a weaker fighter overall. Is he, is that he didn't know the true essence of karate, which was about defending and stuff like that. So, but at the same time too, and I would love if they did a flashback scene of like, Sato like fighting in his younger days to kind of like maybe get a clear answer on that. So I don't know regardless of, I don't know if I'm not saying that Sato can beat Master Kim Sung-young, but Kamen has said that they were definitely on equal level, and that Miyagi knew more of the true essence of karate and Sato didn't. That's why he was not going to win in that match in Karate Kid 2.
Right. That's an excellent point. And another thing I want to bring up is you're bringing up the mindset of, how Sato was kind of gravitating towards the more aggressive parts of the style.
Mm-hmm.
Terry Silver, his mind and his experience, I'm willing to say that it goes places that Johnny's mind wouldn't. Because Johnny, even though he was a bully in Karate Kid 1, if you look at it from that perspective, Johnny's really straight up. He's like a very honest guy. Like he has a sense of honor and right and wrong. And I don't think his brain goes to very devious places. Whereas Terry Silver, it's almost like there's no limit to how devious he could get.
Right.
And he doesn't have a sense of honor at all. He's willing to cheat. And we saw that at the beginning of the fight. He blindsides Johnny, either just for fun or he wants the advantage. He doesn't care, and he just loves dishing out pain and doing what he wants to do. So would that put Johnny always at a disadvantage when fighting Terry Silver? Because Terry's mind will go to some very dark places that Johnny's won't.
Yes and no, mainly because, again, it goes back to that lesson that, Johnny taught Miguel when he hit him in the back with a baseball head. He says, you think your opponent's always going to fight fair? That might be somebody coming from behind with a baseball bat. So at a disadvantage, hard to say. I would just say, though, that especially after fighting Terry Silver once, he's at least going to try to expect it next time. So he'll be at least kind of better equipped. So
Okay, now here's my follow-up to that. Who do you think is more intelligent, Terry Silver or Johnny Lawrence?
That's tough to say. The one thing that somebody had pointed out to me a while back was that I think why kind of like a long answer, why Miyagi was so great and why Johnny and Miguel are so great, because they were very progressive and forward thinking, where Sato and Daniel, Daniel now kind of closed minded and stuff like that.
Right.
So I think, but at the same time though, I would say Terry probably more intelligent, just because of the willingness of. I mean, look how elaborate his plan was in Karate Kid Part 3.
Right.
And who's to say that like he didn't go to? I mean, do we know that he's gone to college? Not that college determines intelligence, but do we know that he's like has like a degree in business or something like that?
Well, we don't know for sure, but sure. I mean, he was extremely successful.
Right.
Yeah.
He would have had resources to like educate himself in whatever he wanted. That's the thing too. It's just that because of those resources, he beats a lot of people in a lot of categories because of, money can buy anything.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, definitely as far as planning, deception, things like that. Yes, Terry would definitely be better because, even like with Johnny, as you said, he's just like out for like, yeah, I'll just spray paint or whatever,
Right.
So, but yeah.
Yeah, we've got Detective Bat says Silver is the better strategist.
Yes, yeah, that's probably the best word, I would say, strategist. Yeah.
Marcia says, dude, Silver, he's a master planner.
Mm-hmm.
Surround says Johnny is not very intelligent. Daniel is way smarter, and so is Silver. Terry says, Terry, obviously, very smart man.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
thank you guys.
I would say though, like, yes, Johnny obviously has his moments, but that doesn't mean that like he's dumb. I mean, like I said, he's very progressive and forward thinking, like Miyagi. And as far as like the cement truck, for example, that was a very unorthodox way of training, but it worked.
He's creative.
Miyagi teaching Daniel how like muscle memory through chores, it worked. Yeah. So that's why, a lot of, at least me, I kind of compare them in the same regard, is because even though depending on how smart you would call, Miyagi and Johnny comparison to Silver, it doesn't mean they were exactly dumb. They knew what they were doing in a lot of instances. So,
right. Here's Seb says, I think Terry and Daniel are on the same level of business skill, which that's a nice compliment.
Very close. Yeah, I would say.
Now, a lot of people, I've heard this, they think that Daniel actually is not necessarily the reason for the dealership success. And it's really Amanda. Like it's them working together, that Amanda's really, she has some skills that really help the dealership be successful too. Mm-hmm. So whatever you feel about that, but that's a nice compliment, I think. Although Terry's much richer than Daniel. Let's see. Okay, Zaround says Kreese is more intelligent than Johnny, in my opinion. Interesting.
I could say that, and mainly because there was a really deleted. I don't know if you've seen the deleted scene where Kreese is training Robbie, and he's like, "Always protect your heart." That was some very Miyagi level like wisdom that he was telling, and that's what's also kind of the great thing about, and what I've always said with, like especially my Johnny video, is that you can apply these principles. It's just how do you apply them? If you apply them the right way, they can work. Even as crazy as Silver is and crazy as Kreese is, some of their advice holds pretty true sometimes. It just depends on the situation.
Indeed. And then, of course, we have Zaround saying Miyagi was probably smarter than Silver.
Yeah.
I could get behind that. And then Peter from Cobra Kai Companion says the way to gauge how rich someone is by how many television sets they have. And from the trailers, it looks like Daniel has quite a few television sets. So that's good. And then here's another video idea, Strife. We should rank all the characters by intelligence.
Oh, man. We're going to call the bottom tier dunce tier have them Photoshop a dunce hat. No, I'm just kidding.
Exactly. Detective Bat, kind of to your point, Strife, Johnny hands down is smart in his own way. Not in a Silver way, but there's a reason why Kreese favored him more than the others.
Very true.
Yep. That's a really good point. So Strife, we're kind of at the point now. I think we've looked at it from a number of different angles. We've looked at it from like the level of skill, maybe bodily age, if that matters at all. The quality of teaching, intelligence, willingness to do good or bad things, possibilities of an upset, and I know different ways that, we talked about a lot of different things, and everyone in the chat. All right, let's see. Are we at a point where we could try to make a guess as to what would happen in the future if these two meet? Man, how do you see this going down?
Definitely another conflict, like easily.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, definitely, Johnny visiting the Cobra Kai dojo is definitely not to sign up for classes, So
right.
It's man, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to predict, but I just say it's not gonna. It won't end amicably. I'll put it that way.
Right.
There's definitely be conflict. So
right. I know it's interesting. Terry Silver, he is manipulative and he's very smart, and I wonder if somehow he'll try to manipulate Johnny, or I wonder if he would try to manipulate Johnny instead of even just fighting, doing so. I think that's one way, is be like Terry Silver trying to manipulate his way out of a fight. But if they did fight, I would think that Terry, it looks like he is pulling out all the stops. He wants to win whatever he wants to do, rule the world. He is pulling in so much talent, so much help. He seems to be laser focused on what he wants to do. So I would think that the possibility that Johnny Lawrence could come back and threaten him is on his radar. So I would think that Silver would have a plan, an idea of how he'd want to handle it.
Right.
And I think he thinks of himself as smarter than Johnny, which might be his weakness. So I don't know. I think it would depend on, can Johnny do something that would surprise Terry? Because that seemed to be when Terry was weakest in that fight, was when he thought he underestimated Johnny, thought he was down, didn't really regard him at all. And then Johnny comes back and surprises Silver and gets in blows. And would it be fair to say that might be a chance for Johnny to win if he's able to surprise Silver?
I mean, it could be a reversal of what happened in season 3, where Johnny saves Daniel and surprises him that way. Just kind of like, how Daniel surprised, that's how Daniel surprised Kreese.
Right.
It's definitely inevitable because, at the end of the season finale, season 4, he's like, don't worry about Johnny Lawrence. I'll take good care of him too. So he's definitely not, there's very clear indication that conflict's going to happen. But that would be like kind of one way I could kind of see that too, that it could definitely be a reversal of season 3 where they're, like Terry's going to fight a gauntlet, kind of like how Kreese did. So,
right. I love that. I love that idea. Toto Moyo says Terry would probably cause a financial situation with Johnny and therefore have the upper hand to bribe Johnny.
Yeah, I can see that too.
I know Terry's so interesting because he's got all these skills, but he's also just rich, and so he has so many resources. It's Wolfgang says Johnny Lawrence wins the rematch.
That'd be awesome. Great. I'd love to see that. Yeah,
that would be great. We have a lot of characters though, and I have to throw that in. We have Chosen coming. We have Kim Da-eun, which is the new sensei who might be related to Kim Sung-young. She might be excellent. It looks like he's hired some really great fighters as additional senseis. So what do you do against Terry if he has an army of paid senseis? It's like that's so wild. Like, I just love that thought. It almost seems like you can't have a fair fight unless you're able to isolate Terry or something. But I don't know. I'm a Terry Silver fan, Strife. I can't help but think that Terry Silver should win, and maybe Johnny could win in an upset or something unexpected.
Are you saying that, or is he paying you to say that? That's the real question. Big T got a hold on you?
Something, I got to be honest with everyone. It doesn't matter where I get my money from. My opinions are my own. So even if Terry Silver were paying me, he's such a great guy that he lets me have my own opinions.
Can't blink twice at Thomas Ian Griffin this voice. You say this? I'm just
kidding. Okay. No, I think no, I love Terry Silver. So I want him to win. Like I want Terry Silver to win in a fight. Like I want him to be super powered. That's just me.
Yeah.
He should be, based on everything we know. We've seen his skill, we've seen his experience, we've seen Johnny's experience. Like Johnny, it would be great if he won, but I think sometimes you just have to have characters that are just good. And Terry Silver is one of those that's just good. That's me though. That's my biased fan dumb being paid opinion.
What I was gonna say, well, there's a point to that. What do you think also why they've been able to and I'm not saying spread out in a bad way, but why do you think they've had such a good storytelling this whole time? They've been able to trade wins back and forth throughout the entire seasons. That's why that's why the writing is so great. It's just sometimes you have to have those W's and sometimes you have to have those L's.
Right.
With Chosen and Daniel, for example, Daniel needed to lose to learn that technique.
Right.
So.
Yep, it's a great point. Peter, Cobra Kai Companion, says buying someone a Terror Bear goes a long way. Thank you, Peter. Everyone, if you haven't seen Cobra Cole, check that out. And because that is a short film with me, Ken Cole, and David Chatraw, who plays Tom Cole on Cobra Kai. And it kind of explores what might be happening behind the scenes and who might know each other. And Terror Bear is a reference to that. And Dylan, you ask, is Ken working for Terry? Everyone go watch Cobra Cole and you'll find your answer as to what's going on with that. Zaround says Ken is being groomed to be the next Snake or Dennis. I would say that's possible, but with a lot less physical skill. Yes. Let's see. Guys, thank you for your comments. Eliza Lee says Terry would beat Johnny in a one-on-one fight 9 times out of 10. But if Johnny fought with Daniel Kreese Chosen, he has no chance. Yeah, indeed. My question is Terry is there gonna be a scene where they're all 4 of them are gonna walk into a room to confront Terry, and Terry's standing there and he's saying, "Hello, everyone. You thought I was alone," and he snaps his fingers and like all his senseis come out with Kim Da-eun, and it's just like a brawl.
Yeah, that'd be crazy.
Yeah,
I'd love to see that.
Indeed. Well, so Strife, what's your final verdict?
I think what I think will probably happen is if this rematch happens, it's going to be in a segmented part like they did with season 3. Okay. And that obviously and that helps with a lot of it kind of like goes back to which a lot of probably some wrestling fans are here, like the wrestling booking. Sometimes you have to have like certain ways to make characters look strong and not necessarily make them look weak. For example, that's why Hawk and Robbie ended in a draw in season 1. And that's why Hawk had an ambiguous loss in season 2, and then was finally able to beat him because Robbie lost focus, and that's why these fights are just so good, because that ambiguity helps a lot. It helps a lot with the writing, it helps a lot with the execution. But final verdict though is it's going to be a segmented fight where Terry loses, but Johnny more or less gets a W, kind of like how he did with Kreese. Okay, where he basically would have almost beat Terry, but something happens. So.
And if it happens, what would you say is the likelihood of that fight happening?
Oh, the segmented fight?
Yes. Or do you think they'll avoid that fight totally? Like, do you think that there won't be a confrontation between that involves Johnny?
Oh, like a physical? I mean, that's definitely a possibility too. I would say it's kind of 50-50 at this point. 50-50. Because, I mean, there has to be some kind of, again, and I say confrontation, not necessarily just meaning physical, but just some kind of verbal confrontation, because Johnny's visiting the Cobra Kai dojo for a reason. So.
Right. Indeed. Dylan says, I also hope Mike confronts Terry in season 5. Mike Barnes. Yeah. I mean, we don't know who could show up and mess things up for Terry Silver. He's the one thing about being evil and manipulative is that you're going to tick a lot of people off over time. So, and that's not a good thing. Wow. Strife. Okay. Calling it. Okay. So, Strife, you say there's a 50-50 chance of there being a confrontation, and that if it happens, it's going to be a segmented fight similar to the end of season 3, where Johnny will end up winning over Terry Silver. Right. I love
ambiguously
winning over Terry Silver, meaning that we can have this debate all over again afterwards.
Exactly.
Be a future conversation.
That's how they do it. That's how they get us in, man. They use that ambiguity. So
I love that. I think that there could be a rematch between Johnny and Silver, although I think probably at some point there's going to definitely be some kind of physical match between Kreese and Silver. I think we're going to see them fight.
That's definitely, yeah.
And that might happen at the same time. You might have, who knows what happens with Kreese. Maybe he'll join up with Johnny. Maybe he'll be part of that segmented fight. But the way these things go, I know that if Terry's the big bad, he can't win everything.
Right.
So I'd like him to win, but I bet there'll be a point at which he won't, maybe not outright lose, but not clearly win. Maybe it's looking down for him and he's able to escape the fight somehow. I don't know, but I think if it's a straight rematch between Johnny and Terry will win. But I think if it's a segmented fight, that changes everything.
Right. Exactly.
I'm going to say that Terry won't lose a physical fight. Just as a fan. I will say that. So that's my prediction. Guys, let's see. Peter says, don't be sad, Ken. Yes, I know. Well, thank you guys. Thank you for everything. Strife, as we wrap up, is there anything else that you'd like to say? Obviously, everyone needs to check out your channel. You've got all these kinds of videos. You've got so many fight videos. Your YouTube channel I have linked in the description. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
Right. One thing I did forget to mention when we talked about the crossover appeal with Cobra Kai and Ninja Turtles, we didn't even mention the action figures that they came out with. Do you remember that?
Yes. Did you get any?
No, I haven't. I've just seen them. But how do you feel about that crossover? I don't know if I want to call it weird. Like it's somewhat in the same realm, but it's just you wouldn't expect it, I guess.
Right. Well, I'll tell you something. A long time ago on one of my live streams, I had a guy named Coleman Degman, amazingly talented actor on here. He plays Bigfoot in my newly released movie, Bigfoot and Me. You guys can check that out too, if you're a Bigfoot fan. But he watched Karate Kid 3 for the first time. This was before season 4. And the first thing he said was, Terry Silver could be a villain in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And I was like,
that actually
wow.
makes sense.
Yeah. And so for me, ever since he said that, it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, especially with toxic waste dumping. I mean, that's kind of what an element of TMNT. So
yeah, what if Dynatox is responsible for the turtles somehow?
Yeah, I mean that could be. Yeah, so that's very interesting crossover. But you also have to look at when Karate Kid, I would say definitely one of the seeds of karate craze in the 80s and of course in the 90s. I mean, there's many martial art films we can talk about in the 90s, of course, Three Ninjas, one of my favorite, like Surf Ninjas,
right. Yeah.
Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, and all that kind of all ties together because that Karate Kid kind of I think helped start that in a way.
Yeah.
And then they kind of kept rolling through the 90s, slowly, with all these different things coming out. So
right, exactly. A great comment. Killer 7, can Chosen defeat Silver? Well, I think that it's going to have to be a whole other video to get into that one. Terry, I'm with you on this, Terry. That's why I'm kind of sad that Terry's a villain, because he has to lose. And some of us don't want him to. I'm there with you. But he makes such an awesome villain. I agree. And I would say there's a possibility that maybe Terry won't be, maybe he'll be untrustworthy, but maybe he won't be the big villain forever.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll pretend to be good again or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Bryce Productions. Let me get this in real quick. Sean Kanan had an interview a few weeks ago, and he was asked, where do you think Mike is now? And Sean said, maybe he's in jail with Dutch. Season 5 tease. It's not the first time he said that. What do you think about that? We've talked about Mike Barnes before.
Well, Sean has definitely said a few different things of what happened with Mike over the years. I would say this is the first time I've heard him say the jail thing. At least me personally, I've heard. I know he said he might have also I've also theorized maybe like an MMA fighter or like some kind of underground fighter.
Right.
I've also heard him say that he could be kind of reformed after jail or going to the army and stuff like that. Which, it'd be interesting to see that and whatnot. And also, there was a comment where he says, "Do you consider Mike Barnes a Cobra Kai student?" I would say yes, because I mean, Mike was definitely good on his own, but he was definitely obviously trained by both Kreese and Silver. So
right,
and he was representing Cobra Kai in the tournament. So I would definitely consider him a Cobra Kai student for sure. Absolutely.
Thank you, One Curious Crow. Thank you for your comment. Yeah, and Terry says I kind of want Terry to change just to keep him alive.
But see, Terry's only saying that because they have the same name as Terry. That's all. That's the only reason they're saying that. So
is that the what?
Yeah.
What just because they have the same name, just because some people might be getting paid, it doesn't mean it doesn't mean
exactly.
So Robert Huswick says, I'm afraid Terry Silver will either be dead or in jail by the end of season 5. Robert, you have completely expressed my deepest fears in life. I hope they never kill Terry Silver. I can't even conceive of that. Terry Silver always has to be living in the background.
I was gonna say, I don't know if I see anybody dying until the season finale, or a student getting the better hand of a master or something like that. So
right,
personally,
well, I have a thought on characters dying and stuff. I personally, my thought is like, I kind of hope a lot of characters don't die. Sometimes it's necessary, and I know that the writers in this show will do a great job, but a lot of times it's not necessary. A lot of times it's just like a plot point, or it's like shock or something like that.
And I think we talked about this too before too, because like yeah. So it has to be done right.
Yeah.
So for sure.
And if it's not, I think it kind of screws up when you look back on the character, because you've always got that, oh man, that kind of had a bad death scene.
I mean, like I still, in a way, I think like Apollo Creed should have never been killed in Rocky IV.
And that's something too that Sylvester Stallone said recently when he was coming out with his director's version. And I felt this way when I saw Rocky IV. I'm like, dang, that they killed off Apollo Creed. They just killed him.
Right.
And Sylvester Stallone said he wished he could have gone back and made him paralyzed or, wounded, injured,
right?
Maybe permanently injured, but not dead, because then he could have still been around. And I think that's a good point. There's so many other fates that aren't good besides death, but you don't have to totally get rid of the character, but maybe they're injured or something like that.
Right. Exactly.
Amir says Kreese will die. It is so obvious.
I mean, maybe. I know, it kind of just depends, really. Like I said, I don't know if it would happen until, but at the same time, though, too, Kreese was able to defeat 2 big guys at his old age in season 3. So I don't know. Like, and they also had brass knuckles too, and so I don't know. Kreese is not exactly a pushover. So
no, he's not at all. Well. We'll see. I hope that no one dies, because that means we could keep seeing the characters in the future. That's just me. But well, Strife, thank you for joining us today. This was an amazing discussion.
Yeah.
You will be personally, not only should we check out your YouTube channel, you will be at the Dallas Fan Expo coming up. And so anyone watching now might see you there dressed up as
Chosen, doing Chosen one day and doing Mr. Miyagi the other day. So you'll probably definitely see me. So yeah, definitely look for me there. If you're going, just stop me for a picture or whatever. Just if you see me. So
absolutely,
be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Everyone go up to Chosen or Mr. Miyagi at the Dallas Fan Expo. It's probably Strife.
Unless there's another Chosen or Mr. Miyagi, then I don't know. I can't guarantee if it'll be me or not. So
well, Strife will be the authentic one. No, I'm kidding.
There we go.
It's so much fun. Like, if you guys are going and dressing up too, like, definitely let us know.
For sure.
Talking Straight with Nate, one more thing. There's a channel on villains called Analyzing Evil. They need to do one on Terry Silver, but I think this is a better job for a Cobra Kai channel.
Yeah, I've seen that. That channel is really good. But Talking Straight with Nate, I can't believe you're saying that and not watching either of our videos that we both did on Terry Silver.
I know.
With Ken doing like 2 or 3.
Yes.
Come on, Nate. I'm just kidding.
The deepest, and I will say this, Nate, the deepest one I've done, it's a recent one, you should check it out, is Terry Silver a psychopath? So it's not necessarily evil, but it's actually kind of from a psychological, clinical standpoint, is he a psychopath? And so it's different. It's hopefully a different kind of take. You might get a kick out of it. But season 5, I don't think will be the last season, Dan the Man. They've already soft confirmed at least season 6. I'm guessing that they are trying to negotiate maybe a package 6 and 7 deal before they announce anything, because that would be amazing. And Dylan, I can't disagree with you. All I'll say is though Ken Cole is the best, Strife is also the best. So we're happy.
we're both Miyagi and Kim Sung Young level.
Yeah.
We're equal.
Right. We're not so opposed on like the good versus evil side, but yeah, we're at that same level. Strife, thanks so much. It's great to talk to you again today. It's always great to talk to you.
Yeah, great. No, hey, I love having these on, man. Definitely, hopefully, definitely do one for sure after season 5, which is coming up quicker than we realized. So,
oh my gosh.
No, it's always a blast to be on here. Thanks for having me, Ken.
Absolutely. All right, Strife, we're going to check out all your videos, including your Terry Silver video, Talking Straight with Nate. Check out that one. Why Terry Silver is so terrifying. Okay, guys, thanks for watching KenCast, and look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks for all your great comments, and we'll see you next time.